now listening to Vigilantes Radio, presented by the Only One Media Group. This is the people's choice for quality interviews, celebrities, and special guests. Hosted by Demetrius Dinny Reynolds. Call in to join the mix at 701-801-9813. For the complete archive of episodes, visit onlyonemediagroup.com and be sure to like us on Facebook at Vigilantes Radio. We welcome all. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. Enjoy the show.
Good morning, guys. Welcome to another incredible episode of Vigilantes Radio Live. My name is Coach Dini, and we have we have a very special guest. I hope you guys are very familiar with this gentleman now. We had to come back. This is like session 3. It's really session 4 if you picked up the audio on the first interview. So I will turn these into audios as well, just in case for you guys who travel on the road like I do and can't really watch things, but you could listen to them. This is a favor for you and me. So I felt like we needed another conversation. Tyler mentioned that he didn't get to bare his soul with you guys. So I said, you know what? Let's do it again. Let's create another session. And here we are, guys. So don't lose sight. This is the frequency of the fearless. Tyler Ray Mitchell, session 4. Some stories aren't about the spotlight. They're about the shadows we walk through to even deserve the light. Tyler Ray Mitchell returns not as an artist, not as a guest, but as a man unafraid to pull back the curtain on the becoming. This session isn't about accolades or trophies or anything like that. It's more so about growth, about reckoning with the past, finding peace in the present, and becoming the kind of man who doesn't just chase purpose, but embodies it. If you ever struggle with identity, with pain, or with the quiet war of self-forgiveness, this conversation will feel like a mirror and a map. That's right, we're not going to leave you lost, because healing isn't a highlight reel. It's an unfolding. And guys, you know what this is. This isn't just radio. This is revival for your mind, body, spirit. This is Vigilantes Radio Live. My name is Coach Dini, and change is possible. Are you ready? All right, he's no stranger to this frequency, but this morning we strip it all the way down. Tyler Ray Mitchell returns for his 3rd appearance, 4th if you've been hanging out with us. This time with just heart, just growth, just truth. From pain to purpose, from confusion to clarity, Tyler walks us through what it really looks like to evolve from a boy into a man. And if you're ready for honesty, this is it. With that, let's give Tyler Ray Mitchell this mic. Hey, man. Again, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, it's good to be back. I appreciate you having me on again and continuing this great conversation.
Indeed, man. When you told me, or when you mentioned, it's like, man, I don't really think our conversation lived up to how you described it in the intro. And, to me, it did. But hey, you're the man living this journey, so I have to take your word for it, because this is your experience. I'm on the outside looking in. So, man, just to start things off, you've grown in front of your audience, in front of your students. But what's your deeper purpose now as a man navigating both spotlight and solitude?
Well, given my background, I grew up in the projects in Greensburg in Pennsylvania. And, saw a lot of things, a lot of abuse, a lot of people hurting each other. I grew up with abusive family members and things like this. And so it has always been my mission as a man now to give back and, me be able to, with my story, be able to help change lives of the children but not just the children, but the adults too, and to be a leading example that if you're going through some type of abuse, whether it's mental, physical, spiritual, that there is a way out. But you got to take that initiative to start making those changes for you and start creating those boundaries and get that knowledge of yourself so you know what's good for you and what's not good for you. Kids, especially, they don't deserve a lot of the things that they're given. You know, the war, the poverty, these things need to be eradicated from the planet. And because the children, when people go after each other, it's the children that suffer. The adults attack each other, but now they're arming the children in some countries. And so this is not the way that things should be. So for me, having this background of having an abusive childhood, I decided that working with the children and helping unlock the child that's in the cage inside of adults would be my main mission. And I do education, and I also do that through my music. I try to just do that, embody that freedom inside of myself so it can be mirrored to others.
Yeah, man. And the amazing thing from that is that you didn't become a statistic. We see that a lot, man, where the cycle is repeated, or just people remain broken for a very, 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 very long time. How did you, well, I don't know, that's a weird question to ask, but how did you stop yourself from becoming a statistic?
Well, I think I was very blessed to have gifted a lot of mentors and coaches. It was almost as if I was seeking that out for myself. My family, it wasn't easy. I was one of 10 children, so
wow.
I was the monkey in the middle, so I was the one helping take care and raise the children. My dad was military, so he was always off on deployments and stuff growing up, and my mom had her hands full, So how to rise above the statistic? I think that I was gifted with a lot of good mentors and people who guided me and saw what my predicament was and saw that I wanted to get out, that I wanted to transcend where I was, and I was actively looking for a way. And when they saw that in me, at least this is from an account from my best friend's mom, who took me in for a while. She said, I saw that in you. She's like, and I wanted to assist you. And I think that's why in the previous episode I said, soul shine come what may, because this light is like that comes out from inside of us is like a flare, and people are able to recognize the light when they see it. And everybody has this light shines it to a lesser, greater degree. And so when people see this, they're like, oh, that altruism, there are people out there and programs out there that can support people that want out. But systemically, the system makes it that way. It makes it really hard to get out of a poverty mindset. And not that poverty is bad. Actually, I think that in some of the countries that I've been, one of them, Haiti, you get the best quality of people as far as like soul shining their power of their soul when all they have is each other. And so there's something that's made from that, that gets created from that. So systemically, I think that there's a lot of pressure and a lot of psychic attacks happening for people to keep them in the places that they are. So I think it would be my mentors, my willingness to want out, but not maybe knowing exactly where to look. And then recognizing, doing my research and educating myself on what happened to humanity, what happened that created this, what are the perpetual systemic issues that are causing these problems. And just education alone, I think, is enough to empower somebody, to give them the motivating factors to make a change.
Yes, sir. Man, I didn't really write a lot of questions because I told you, man, last time I just want to turn on the faucet and let you flow without any without me directing the traffic, if you will, because I know that can sometimes throw off the flow of things, because I don't know, we could dive in every direction and not really dive in the main point. So I'm gonna shut my lips now and let you lead us as if we're the congregation and you have a message for us, which I believe you do. You're a special human being. You shared this wonderful song with me, and I'm glad I took the time to listen to it because it really hit home yesterday as I was going through something, and I was just sitting there like, wow, and I had my daughter with me, and she was like, "Dad, are you okay?" And I was like, yeah, this is just beautiful music, yeah. And we both there just, enjoying each other and just listening to your awesome tune, man. And yeah, man, here you go, bro. The stage is yours.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. That song that I sent you, when you sent me a picture of you and your daughter, I was like, wow, man, like, okay, we're becoming a little bit tighter. We've been talking for a while. And I felt that. So I was like, man, I'll share a little bit of what I'm working on too. So you really, that's that vulnerability. That's that, peeling back the curtain. That's what happens. Things start when we're sharing, everything that we need to know, we can learn in preschool as far as about how we need to communicate with each other. And and sometimes that's the raw and real, which is what the album's name's gonna be, I think. Because that's just how I try to show up in the world. And I think that in the industry right now, at least from the new age and stuff like this, they're looking for authenticity. They're looking for not seriousness but sincerity. They're looking for people that shine this spirit and share in this spirit. And so when writing that song came from heartbreak, but it really came from, I realized the song's called Deeper Love. What I realized is that it came from a place that can never be filled by another human being. At that time, I was seeing a wonderful lady. She was ready for marriage. I wasn't ready for marriage at that time. And I ended up falling for another lady who was into music, playing songs and stuff like that. She was a guitar player. But the moment I got attracted to her, I realized that I was going to lose both of them. Now, I was young. I was probably like in my early 20s, still trying to figure it out. And that's what ended up happening. I ended up losing both of them. I actually wrote the beginning riff for that song the day after I hung out and met this woman. She inspired it, the woman that I fell for. Literally fell for. So you got see, that's the thing about love, man. You can only fall into it. When your hormones hijack your intelligence, you got to look out. That's 25 is about the age for males, at least, when they start to level out, like chemically, like biochemically, if they haven't done a lot of hard drugs and alcohol. If they have, it takes a little bit longer for them, even when they decide to be sober, to get those hormones to level out and get the systems regulated. Fasting is one way to really speed up that process, if that's something that you are interested in. And so, I end up losing both of them, and I was thinking like, okay, what do I do now? And I realized that it wasn't the ladies that I was after could fulfill this unsatiated hunger, is what I would call it. But it needed to be filled with something that was ever sustaining. And I'm like, well, what is this ever sustaining force? So that song was a plea for me I was in a space where I was looking for something deeper than even relational love. And so when I found it, and I come in and out of these states where I feel like I got it, then I don't. I feel like I got it, then I don't, and coming in and out. But when I recognized that love was something that is in me, but also the sustainer of all things, it became a mystery that I was wanted to seek out and understand. In my book, The Great Work, I reference how the Song of Solomon in the Christian Bible talks about Solomon's love affair with his women, but really I think this is his love affair with the divine. In a lot of the mystic traditions, which is where alchemy stems from, there's this deep love for the creator, and with this deep love of the creator, it inspires a person. Like a small example is when I see a beautiful garden somewhere, and I'm like, wow, this is really beautiful. It might inspire me to take a picture and share it with others. It might inspire me to grow my own garden, So there's something about love, which is the power of attraction, which I've been saying for a while now, and I still can't prove it, but I think that love is the force of gravity. It's the force that binds all things together. It's the force that moves the planets. But it's like a give and take, It circumambulates, it moves orbitally, so it doesn't always sometimes it's close, sometimes it's not. So this deeper love is what inspired, I believe, the great alchemists to come up with scientific revelations. And this love to make our lives easier creates advancements in science as well. When people don't like when their family members are sick. This is another reason why I'm inspired to do what I do and show up the way that I show up, is because people that are in pain and people that are hurting, there's beauty in that pain, meaning that there's a potential for that person to rise above it. So this is what I mentioned in one of our previous shows. The force, it's a mechanistic force, that this pain and hurt, the reason why we feel things is so that we can respond and not react in a certain way to kind of to avoid that, or to not feel that again. Like if the stove is hot and I touch the stove, I was, ow, that's hot. I'm not gonna do that again ever. And so unless I develop a really good calluses, I'm a chef, so I end up pulling stuff out of the oven that I probably shouldn't without oven mitts. So, if we can develop those calluses and resilience, then we can come back to it maybe from a different vantage point. So that's what continues to inspire me, is like the pain of others, and that I don't want to see them in pain, though I know it's a necessary mechanism for them. That doesn't mean that it doesn't, I can't take this force, which pain and suffering in this world today is never ending, as far as I could tell, for the past 10,000 years of history that we have, 6,000 years, we're starting to unearth 10,000 years, but 6,000 years that we have. That there is hope for individuals. It starts with the individual, and there is hope for others. So speaking about the alchemical traditions, they've always been inspired through, from what I can tell from my research, from the mystical traditions which stem from the main religions that we know today. So it's about, alchemy is all about taking your pain, taking the pain of the world, which is unlimited. I mean, our world's getting smaller, we're feeling it more and more, and how to take that and change it into something, even if it's not my pain. I could take someone else's pain and turn it into something beautiful, not for them, but for me, in a sense, like, because it inspires me to do something about it. Like, let me think. A good example: one of my students was suffering with some home issues, and I could tell that she just wasn't having it that day. She just wasn't responding. She had her head down, and finally I got her to loosen up a little bit. I brought my little panda over there. I used to have him. I gave him away. But I walk over there with a little panda, do a little talk with her. Puppets are always good. Little props are always good to break the ice, especially if I come across as the goofy teacher. I try to not be serious, but I try to be sincere. So that's where a lot of my goofiness comes from. So I bring the panda up to her and I'm like, "Hey, look, what's going on, bud?" And she looked at me. She's like, "All right, he's trying here. Let me give him a little give." So she told me what was happening. And you know what? My empathy really kicked in. I felt that. But instead of taking that, and I mean, there's nothing really I could do about her home situation other than maybe give her advice, but she wasn't in a space to hear advice. She was in a space of someone that just needed to listen. So I listened to her, what her needs were. And I said, "Okay, I know what we're going to do. I got some art supplies here. We're actually going to make some warm fuzzies." She's like, "We're not going to do math today?" I said, "There's two things that are more important than math. It's posted in my classroom: healthy relationships and hygiene." Hygiene means mental, physical, and spiritual. I said, "I don't want to teach math to people that don't have this. Look at what they did. They created banks."
Right. Yeah.
I said, "If I borrow $5 from you, and how much do I owe you?" I ask all the children this. They're like, "Mr. T, it's only $5. I don't care. Like, you don't even got to pay me back. You do so much for us, And I'm like, I'm always taken back by that. I'm like, okay, that's a little, that hit me,
Yeah.
But I'm like, all right, $5. But they're like, I'm like, but if you wanted me to pay you back, how much would you want me to pay you? They said $5. I said, okay. I said, look at this. If I go to a bank and let's say I want to borrow, it's an adult world. We can't get nothing for $5 anymore. I said, let's, sure. I mean, well, all the best things in life are free anyway. So I just, for now. So I decided that I would I'm like, well, if I borrow, let's say $2,000 from the bank, I need some cash up front for a car or something because I can't afford it, even though I work 2 jobs. I tell them that. And they're like, I guess how much do I have to owe the bank? They're like, oh, $2,000. I said, most banks, depending on your credit, I said, we're not going to get there. This is middle school, so we're not going to get into business math. But depending on credit, won't loan you the money if you can pay it back too fast. This is something that I experienced recently. Like, we won't loan you the money because we won't be able to get enough interest from you to lend you the money. I'm like, well, what kind of friend is that?
Indeed.
So these guys took this stuff, these beautiful sciences and beautiful ways of math is just anxiety on paper. It's just a way for us to organize things, The number system is called the Hindu Arabic numeral system. So the United States didn't really have anything to do with this. Actually, our number system comes from the Hindus, and it comes from the Arabian countries. So it was Leonardo da Vinci actually that decided that we were going to use it. because they used to have math battles.
What?
Yeah, man, you can look it up. The first math battle was abacus versus the numeral system. So mathematicians would get heated over this. They would like cut out. There's stories of people cutting off each other's noses after these battles and stuff.
Wow.
So yeah, getting into math, I started. I had a big stack of books on my table, and I'd always tell the students. I always joke with them like, "This is your curriculum." They're like, "Oh no!" I'm like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to do a book report on every single one of these books." And it was like algebra, geometry, probability, all this stuff. And they're like, "No." I'm like, "No, I'm just kidding." And then I get this big old mound of papers and set it down. I'm like, "This is actually your curriculum." And they said, "Oh my gosh, this is even more." I'm like, "Yeah, but don't worry, I'm gonna condense it down by reading these books." I said, "These books are for me so I can learn how to make this interesting for you." And so that's how in one of the previous radio, one of the sessions we had, it wasn't the radio one, but I talked about, the 5 years of silence before entering into these mystery schools. A lot of them, even Zen Buddhists, require a certain amount of dedication to silence in their practices. So anyways, I know I'm kind of spinning around, but so I'm going back to me and this young lady. We're doing art. We're making warm fuzzies. The warm fuzzies come from the 1950s radical psychiatry movement that was started by Claude Steiner and Eric Berne. They're the ones that started the "I'm okay, you're okay" transactional analysis stuff in psychology, which basically is the science of how to become okay with yourself by diving deeper into the inner recesses of yourself and in your psyche by giving you framework. So I'm explaining this in a way a middle schooler can understand it to her. And I said, "You know why I keep these warm fuzzies, keep a bag of art supplies for warm fuzzies?" And she goes, "They're so used to my antics." They're like, "Why, Mr. T?" "I don't know." "Why?" I do cue them sometimes. And I'm like, "Because the world needs more love." And so I pull out a copy of A Warm Fuzzy Tale by Claude Steiner. And I begin to tell her that this is the most valuable possession that I own. And she goes, "This tattered kid's book is the most valuable thing I own?" And I'm like, "Yeah, next to Po, the little animal that I used to have. Kung Fu, Po the panda is like the perfect example of the perfect teacher and the perfect student, I think." So anyways, I begin to tell her about this possession, and it's out of print. People aren't reprinting it. His daughter, though, reprinted it. So there's like some beauty there. And she did it with her own art and her own little spin on it, which I appreciated. And so, so I told her, "Let's do some math." She goes, "I thought we weren't doing math." I said, "Just one. We'll just do one ratio real quick. 1 to 7. And she goes, "Okay, 1 to 7. I was like, "Well, what do you think this ratio represents?" And she's bright. She's real bright. I mean, she made the honor roll the time she was done with the tutoring, and I'm very proud of her. And
Nice.
she's the one I gifted Po to. I told her she's the next dragon warrior, and now all the kids know that that I gave up one of my prized possessions. It was never mine. I was just holding on to it, is what I told her.
Yeah.
We always pass the torch, So I said, "What's this represent?" She goes, "I don't know, like warm fuzzies to something." I forget what she said. Warm fuzzies to pandas. I don't know what she said. Something silly. And I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "How about this? This is positive psychology for you. For every one negative thing that we tell ourselves, we have to hear, and we believe, we have to hear 7 positive things to negate that negative thing." So here I was, trying to come up. Her story inspired me to share in art is a good therapy. She wasn't willing to share at that time, but also it gave me an opportunity, inspired me to share something that was one of my greatest gifts, that was gifted to me by my partner. She had bought me that book, even though it's out of print. It's expensive, but
Wow.
so I still I use that in all my classes. We make warm fuzzies. We talk about that ratio because I just don't want to teach math to people who aren't going to work on developing their character because of the banks and all this stuff. It's based off of trust. It says on the back of the dollar bill, like, in God we trust, But I'm like, well, whose God are we talking about? You know what I mean? Hold on a second. That this isn't we can go deep down that rabbit hole, but the thing is like, well, why aren't we spending more time if this is truly what our society is built off of, the almighty dollar, which, by the way, isn't even supported by gold anymore. I learned that it's just called fiat currency. Fiat means because the king said so.
Yeah, make believe.
I'm like, bro, because the king said so. Like, oh my gosh, we're in trouble. Well, who's
Monopoly
king?
money.
Yeah, man. I'm like, what? Because all right. So I'm like, well, but it's not just us that had this concept. This concept. The indigenous use shells. People use big rocks. People use things to represent things. This abstract symbolic thinking has been going on for a long, long time. And so we've had this faculty, I say at least for 10,000 years. I can't say for sure, but because a lot of the history has been erased and we're still unearthing it. I think we're spending a lot too much money trying to unearth it, really. We should be investing in our future, not trying to dig up the past. But that's just what I think. I don't know. There's a lot of competitions in those fields for people trying to get grant money to unearth things, to put them in museums so people can look at them. I mean, America was founded on an ancient burial ground, so I think we should just leave that stuff alone. I've watched a lot of Scooby-Doo growing up, and Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island when they started digging in and then with the witch's ghost. I'm good. I actually
Right.
I'm actually good. I don't need to mess with any of the spookies. We got enough problems right now. I don't.
Yeah, man. I hear things go bump and I don't investigate. I go the opposite direction.
It depends if I got my searchlight on. I just bought a cap recently that has a light on the forehead, so you can tap it. And in one of the parking lots I walk through sometimes trying to get back to my car from work, it's dark. It's not really lit. Where I live, it's one of the most booming places economically, but they can't invest in street lights. I don't know. There's something deep there. I don't know. That's just a little jab.
Yeah.
But so the gist is like, we need to take our pain and turn it into our fuel for our fire, for our spirits. I really think that the creator, or the great mystery as I like to call it, because I'm into the Scooby-Doo stuff, the creator really wants us, is conditioning us in a way for us to take this energy and turn it into something beautiful. And that's why this alchemy stuff has been so important. The transactional analysis stuff has been so important to me. It's because of where I came from. I struggled with a really bad sugar addiction for a long time. This is not good alchemy, by the way. Using a lot of sugar to poison in your body so that you could be ramped up to go to a job that you hate, to talk to people that don't want to hear you, only want you to pass the time by with them. this is not a good use of sugar. I ended up getting really sick. I was working at actually a Little Caesars. I started off as a sign guy, the guy outside shaking the shaker board, the little pizza sign, trying to get people to come in. That's how I started. And I pop the earphones in and do a little dance. I'm sure I'm on somebody's TikTok or YouTube or something. I don't know. If I am, they never sent me anything. So, anyways, it kind of reminded me of that movie Soul with that guy who was out there dancing, with the sign. I don't know if you've seen that movie, the Disney movie Soul, but I recommend that to everybody. That movie goes deep. If you're looking for meaning and purpose, it's something a little bit light. That's just the right medicine right there. What they're doing with that movie. So anyway, I used to be out there with the sign, and one day I was like, well, I'm gonna start playing guitar and with the sign and see if I can get more people and start working on, getting all my sillies and my embarrassments out the way, So I'd go out there and play some music, and people would come up to me and hang out, and I got to talking with people. People brought me like cans of corn. I got girls' phone numbers, all kinds of stuff, just out there dancing and shaking a sign. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So, and they brought me in. And when they brought me in, I said, man, this is a lot more work and a lot less fresh air. I'm like, you're only gonna pay me a couple quarters more. I'm like, man, this is it. What is this? Talk about math. I couldn't do it back then. I'm glad I got in the books.
Yeah.
So anyways, I got brought inside and I realized, like, dang, this is a lot more work. And I gotta move a lot faster. And I can't listen to my own tunes. I gotta listen to this old yellow radio, because we're allowed to listen to the radio because the people would always play stuff that wasn't appropriate for family, settings.
Right.
So I had to listen to this old dough-caked radio that sometimes, like, you think it was a ghost, the way it would cut in and out.
Hey.
I'm like, what the heck, man? So we listened to this, and anyways, I started seeing how people were getting the energy to do this. I'm like, oh, they're getting the energy to do this because they're drinking Mountain Dew, they're drinking sugar, they're eating pizza, they're eating carbs, they're running around. And I'm like, oh, well, I need to try that. That's what I need to be doing. To keep up, I need to do what they're doing. So you see where this is headed. So I thought that, I would do that too. So about a year or two went by. I was still at the place doing my thing. I became manager, started managing, for a quarter more.
Dude, don't get me started.
Well, I'm just saying, I didn't know math back then, I guess.
Yeah.
I was just trying to make it, the day I turned 18, I moved out of my house. I worked 3 jobs through high school. I went to school. I graduated. I saved up as much money as I could. I didn't care if it was flipping a sign. I didn't care what it was. I wanted out of where I was at because I had it. I had grown diseases in my body. I had hypertension. I had sleep anxiety. I had chronic asthma, which is the reason why I couldn't go into the Marines, is because, thank God, that I was saved from that at that time. And so, nothing against the armed forces, it just wasn't for me at the time. And so, if there was corruption in my town or something going on, I'd be the first person to stand up and say something. I'm sure if you guys look deep enough, you'll see me at places where you wouldn't expect me because there's injustices that were happening. So
that's frowned upon.
Yeah, I know it is. Hey, man, that's what we need, man. We need true justice. This world has never seen true justice.
That's right.
We've always been under the thumb of somebody else. And this is just how the system's set up. I had a sociologist come and visit me at the restaurant I was working at, and it was kind of all over the map. This is just kind of relative. I'm just kind of streamlining here. So she came to me and she's like, you're a Caucasian white guy working at a Haitian restaurant. in the middle of nowhere. This is in Sharon, Pennsylvania. And she's like, you fascinate me. She's like, I read your reviews. I read everything about you. Like, you know, people are dogging on you. They're not dogging on you. She's like, people praise. She's like, I needed to know you're like the perfect specimen for my research that I'm doing. I said, well, what kind of research project are you doing? Do you think that I would be an interest for you? She called me on the store phone, and she goes, well, you're in a multicultural environment, playing at not of the culture, you know, representing the culture's food in the middle of like the rundown Rust City belt of Sharon, Pennsylvania. She's like, I want to understand how you do it. And so she came to me, and I cooked her some good food. I cooked her some chicken, rice, and beans, and I sat her down, and I was still running the restaurant and just running around. I was just answering her questions here and there. And finally there was like this lull. They slowed down, and I sat down next to her, and she goes, she didn't eat. She didn't touch her food. And I'm like, well, your food's cold. I said, I felt a little disrespected at the time. Right. I was like, I mean, the food's cold now. I said, she goes, no. She was like, I was watching you work. And she's like, the way you interact with these people, it just so happens, I think at that time, somebody came in who was Haitian, and I was speaking a little bit of Creole with him. I only know a little bit. I'm not fluent, but I know enough to serve somebody.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be in the culture, you should probably learn something about it.
That's right. Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. No matter what. Right now, I'm working on my Spanish, so work with a lot of guys from Guatemala right now. So anyways, she's like, I was just watching you work. She's like, I just couldn't eat. It was like watching a show. I was like, well, I'm like, I've been working on my act for a long time, but it's sincere. I said, I don't go back in the kitchen and make fun of them after I serve them. What I noticed in a lot of these restaurants is like, to your face, they're like, here, you know, but then they go back and complain about you and talk about you in the kitchen. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible around the food. And I don't tolerate that in the kitchens that I work in, because that's your spirit, that you're breathing in the same air where the food is. And I don't even like the swearing and cursing stuff around the food. It's food. Serving people is very sacred to me. So I don't appreciate when people do stuff like this. So anyways, that's what everyone's used to do. It used to being like. And she's like, you never dropped your smile. She was just so fascinated by this. I was like, okay, well, I told her I've been working on my act for a while. So I sat down next to her, and she was like, well, how do you do it? I said, systemically, think about how restaurants are created. They're created with a hierarchy, meaning that it's from the top down. The dishwasher gets all the dishes, has to clean all the dirty stuff. The cooks have to cook the food. The managers basically watch to make sure everyone's doing their job. I mean, what is this? Like, what is this? Like, there's what's the need for managers if your workers know what they're doing? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things going on, this hierarchy structure. Well, the Haitian place I was working at wasn't like that. And so I told her that I was free to be myself because I didn't have the constraints of other people's insincere expectations of myself. Like, if I was grumpy that day, I was just honest about where I was at when people came in. Like, hey, I'm a little grumpy today. You know, I've been working 80 hours for the past 3 or 4 weeks now, especially during the summer. I'm like, sometimes I'm a little burnt. And so, I would be honest with them about that. So I just told her I was just sincerely being myself. And I said, because of the systemic issues, I said, I want to be a trailblazer for how we could run things a little bit differently. How when we put all these pressures on workers and give them uniforms, and if you study the Lucifer effect, it explains why uniforms actually help people conform to a certain stigma or a certain expectation. And that the Lucifer effect, that was a movie, it was pretty scary. It was with the Stanford prison experiments that happened. So anyways, getting back to the pizza thing, because I just kind of went all over the map, but you know, following what other people did, I got sick for like 4 months with the sugar and the carbs, and I had gotten so much sickness inside of myself. Everything was backed up, you know, I was really sick. That's what happens when we follow the path of people that are doing things just to please others and just make a buck.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're going to be in those environments, we got to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, because what everybody's doing to get where they're getting, and that's on them, but you got to make sure that you're doing what's good for you. So I don't want to finish this show without giving the end goal of alchemy. I think that this is really important, that because alchemy is linked into the mysticisms of the main religions of the world, I think that these religions have come progressively over the past hundreds of thousands of years, at least tens of thousands of years. There have been teachers that have come to educate humanity on how to do what's good for them in the time period that they show up. So these alchemists were being inspired through their love affair of the divine. So that's alchemy. That's why alchemy is so important to me. So here's all the secrets in one little spot. It's a little coded. I think that the where we get the Ein Sof, or that the Kabbalists call where we get this light today, is through the Baha'i revelation, and from the most current teacher, based off of my research, in this lineage that will never end and has always been here, to guide as the guiding light for humanity. I want to read something from Abdul Baha, which is the son of the person who I believe is the light, or brings the Ein Sof of our day. It says, "He is God, O thou servant of the True One. Sulfur is the fire, the love of God, and mercury is the quicksilver of the ocean of knowledge of God. Combine then these twin noble elements, and harmonize and unite these twin soundest pillars, and so obtain the noblest stone. That is the jewel of jewels, the ruby of the mine of the kingdom, so that thou mayest discover the most great elixir, and find the alchemy of truth. And casting it upon the copper and iron of men's souls, transmute them into the purest gold. Seekest thou the mystery of alchemy? It is this. Seekest thou the inestimable elixir? It is this. Seekest thou the philosopher's stone? It is this. While all else besides this is devoid of fruit or consequence, a benefit or useful outcome. Heed thou my words, seek thou this most great elixir of the kingdom. The glory of God rest upon thee." That's the quote from Abdul Baha. It's a little coded, but I think that if I was to sum up alchemy, there's no better way for me to sum it up than through what I believe is the greatest alchemist who ever lived. The story, The Prophet, written by Khalil Gibran, was written specifically about Abdul Baha, which is the guy who wrote this quote. He said that there was no better exemplar of a person that existed on the planet that he had ever met, that embodied the light so much. And so this is one of my main inspirations to come out and share what's going on with me. I've been in a cave for a long time, and this is one of my main inspirations, is because he traveled all over the world, giving this message of the coming of the kingdom, which is of recognizing where the light comes from.
Indeed. Man, Tyler, I still feel like there's more. I don't know, dude, man. Maybe we ought to have these weekly conversations, you know.
Hey, if you're up for it, I'm up for it.
I am indeed up for it, man. This is a process, and unfortunately, we are bound by time constraints, and you know.
Speaking of pizza, I'm about to make some dough.
Oh man. Oh man.
That's what I do in the mornings.
You make dough.
I actually make pizza dough, yeah, for the restaurant, yeah.
That's great, man. Wow.
Everyone's every dough is infused with prayer. So every ball, every roll.
I love it.
They call me a holy roller. No, I'm just kidding.
Literally.
No. Yeah, I come up with some bars while I'm doing that.
That was a good one.
As long as the bars don't keep you in a cage, that's what matters.
Indeed. Hey guys, check it out. The Great Work by Tyler A. Mitchell. I will include the link in the description of this episode, and it's in every episode, so you can't miss it. And I just want to say that was more than an interview. Like I said, I shut my lips for this one, pretty much, and that was a sacred offering. Tyler A. Mitchell gives us transparency, transformation, and testimony. And this morning wasn't about a brand or a project. It's more about the process, I believe, the mess and the meaning. So if you felt seen, heard, and healed by this convo, go follow Tyler. Get ready to stream his upcoming musical project, and let this episode sit with you. If you know someone who needs it, send it to them, because sharing is always caring. And as always, subscribe to Vigilantes Radio, subscribe to Pod Squad, rate the show, leave a review, leave your thoughts, leave questions, share the frequency. And if you believe in what we're building, keep on watching, support the movement. And until next time, guys, stand tall in the becoming, because you are becoming. Thank you so much, Tyler, man. We will connect very soon, and keep these talks going, man.
Yeah, man. Keep finding that deeper love.
All right, we'll do. Hey, that's the song title.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I'm grateful, man. I love our conversations.
All right, I do too, man. Catch you soon, brother.
Catch you.
Peace to all. My name is Deanie, and I am the host of Vigilantes Radio Live. I think that we are beyond just asking cool questions and getting cool responses. I think that we are here as creatives to provide an example that you can do things different outside of expectations, because some of us simply were not born into the club. But there is perhaps a door, window, or back gate that we can leave a clue for you to get into. Life is short, but there are plenty of moments to try and get it right. Pursuing your dreams and learning from mistakes may be tough, but regret is tougher. To book your interview, email us at vradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. That's a V as in victorious, or visit onlyonemediagroup.com. I'm counting on you. Heaven, we all are counting on you to step into your purpose and your passion. You are listening to Vigilantes Radio Live on iHeartRadio, providing you with an opportunity to dive deeper.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com.